Every time the doorbell rang, I already knew what would happen next, not because anyone said it out loud, but because they didn't have to. Guests are coming. That was enough. It meant I would pack my things. It meant I would disappear from my own space. It meant someone else would sleep in my bed while I pretended it didn't matter. I never argued. I never questioned it. I just smiled, nodded, and moved, like I always did. The space wasn't even big, a small carriage house behind my parents'. One room, a loft, a narrow kitchen, but it was mine. Or at least it felt like it was. I worked there, I built my routine there. I created something that belonged to, except it didn't fully belong to, because every time family visited, it became temporary. Something I borrowed. Something they could take back whenever it was convenient, and I let them. For years, I let them. At first, I told myself it made sense. Guests needed comfort. Family comes first. It's only a few days. That's what I repeated every time I packed my bag and moved to the couch inside the main house. But slowly something started to feel off, because no one else was ever asked to move. Not my brothers. Not anyone. Just always men. The longer it went on, the harder it became to ignore what that really meant. By the time I turned 24, my life had changed. I was working full-time, earning my own money, building a career. So when my parents asked me to contribute financially, I agreed. But I also set a boundary. No more leaving when guests come. We sat at the kitchen table and talked about it. They agreed. Clearly, if you're paying, the space is yours. I remember that moment so well, because for the first time, it felt fair. For 2 years, everything held steady. I paid rent. I stayed in my space. No interruptions. It felt stable until one morning everything shifted again. My mother knocked on my door and said guests were coming, more than expected. Then she said gently, "You'll need to stay inside this time." I paused. Then I reminded her quietly. We agreed I wouldn't have to move anymore. That's when everything changed. She looked at me calmly and said, "We never actually agreed to that, not defensive, not harsh, just certain, like she believed it completely." And in that moment, I felt something. Deeper than frustration, I felt erased, like a memory I had trusted was suddenly being rewritten. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just stood there realizing this wasn't about the room anymore. The truth was, I had proof 2 years earlier. I had recorded that conversation, not because I was planning anything, but because I was tired of doubting myself. I could have played it right then, ended the discussion instantly, but I didn't, because I realized something important if I had to prove my reality just to be respected. Then the problem was bigger than this moment, so instead I said nothing. The guests came, and just like always, I moved quietly. No argument, no scene, but this time felt different, because inside something had shifted. I wasn't hurt the same way anymore. I wasn't waiting for them to understand. I wasn't hoping for fairness. I was just observing. And that distance changed everything. After they left, I didn't confront them emotionally. I didn't explain how I felt. Instead, I sent a simple message, calm, clear. I said we needed to put our agreement in writing, and I mentioned the recording, just one. That was enough. The tone changed immediately. We sat down at the same kitchen table again. This time there was no confusion, no rewriting. I acknowledged it, and we made it official. There was no big apology, no dramatic moment, just a quiet shift. They became more careful, more aware, and I became still. The bag I used to keep packed by the door, I unpacked it completely, because I no longer lived, waiting to be displaced. The space didn't feel temporary anymore. It felt real, and for the first time in years, when someone knocked on my door, I didn't feel like I had to leave, show more, show less. There was no big apology after that. No moment where everything was suddenly fixed or explained. It didn't happen like that. Instead, things changed quietly. The kind of change you only notice when you look back. My parents became more careful with their words, more aware of what they said and how. They said it, not perfect, just different. And me? I stopped waiting for them to treat me fairly. I had already done what I needed to do. The bag I used to keep packed near the door, just in case I had to leave again. I finally unpacked it. Folded. Everything, put it away, not because I trusted them completely, but because I trusted myself now, and that made all the difference.